Hey all you witches and beautiful spiritualists, it's me, Prosperity Witch Ellie, and welcome back. And if you're new, welcome, hi. So today I figured we'd talk about divination, what it is, how to go about it, various methods of divination, and overall I just wanted to spark that conversation of, different divination styles and practices just to see what you guys do and hopefully give y'all a little insight into what I do. As always, I never know how long these videos are gonna be, so grab yourself a drink, maybe something to snack on, get comfy, get cozy, and let's get right into it, shall we? So what is divination? To me, divination is a way of gathering insight or clarity, usually by recognizing or reading into patterns via cards, via bones, those are the ways I normally do it, or by just observing the world around you. It's not about predicting the future exactly, but more of understanding a situation better or thinking through a decision. The role divination plays in my personal practice, I would say is, well, a big one. Divination is one of my strong suits, at least that's my opinion. To put it in perspective, I have been practicing my craft overall for a little over 10 to 13 years, maybe even 15, I don't know, I lost track at this point, I'll be honest, I'll do the math later. But, despite all that, I have been divining, I have been doing various divinational practices for about, I'm gonna say, a good few years, 3 to 4 years consecutively. Of course, at first it was a means for me to try to predict the future and get like that little "that's so Raven" moment of, oh, I know what's gonna happen when it's gonna happen. But, that doesn't exactly happen. And of course, over the years, it went from that to now me being able to give spiritual insight to those around me, if not just myself. So let's talk about some divinational tools that I've tried and how they've worked and or have not worked for me. The first one I'm going to talk about is this little guy. This is my pendulum. I mostly use it when I am really trying to get divine insight from my spirits and from my guides and so on. From my understanding of a pendulum, it really revolves around micro movements of yourself. So if I were to jerk it around, of course it's going to move, of course it's going to do something. So I don't always, because of that reason, use a pendulum when it comes to a lot of what I do other than just more confirmation or clarification based questions or concerns. Some other forms of divinational style practices that I have done or that I do absolutely love to do are the following. Of course, where would I be without my tarot decks? I love reading tarot. It was actually the first form of divination that I've ever really practiced, or I don't want to say mastered, but that I have a very good fundamental grasp of. And it's because of that fundamental grasp, it's because of how long that I've worked with my tarot cards that, fun fact, I offer tarot readings as a little side to help put some money in my pocket, some food on my plate. And let me tell you, when I connect with other people via tarot, when I do my readings for my clients, I almost feel like there is nothing else and no one else going on in the world other than just me and my client at my table or wherever I'm at, reading the cards and holding a down-to-earth, deep conversation. And hey, if I'm able to provide a little bit of spiritual insight into whatever they got going on, great. Otherwise, it's just a fun little, hey, let's chat, let's connect, and while we're connecting, let me read your cards kind of thing. Okay, so let's talk about my next and one of my other favorite forms of divinational practices. Let's talk about osteomancy, also known as the art of reading bones. Okay, so what is osteomancy? Well, traditionally, people would cast or throw bones and interpret how they landed or how they looked to gain insight or clarity into situations, a person, all that jazz. Also, it is an ancient practice found in a multitude of cultures. Kind of like reading tea leaves or reading cards, but with bones instead. So I will say, kind of on the line of how tarot I read for everybody and I am very well versed in that, this one, not so much. I only got my personal bone throwing set from a very good friend of mine, actually. and I only had it in my possession for about, I want to say 2 years. It was either I got it 2 birthdays ago or 2 winter solstices ago. Nevertheless, I am me. I love dead things. I love bones, trinkets, and oddities. So I vibe with it. I love it. And on the topic of like reading for other people, I do read my bones, or I do read the bones for other people as well, just not as often as tarot. And also my specific style of reading, it's not like tarot where you can ask a question or multiple questions and get like a bunch of different levels of insight. The way my bone castings work is I throw the bones, or the client throws the bones. And again, depending on how they land or what they look like, I am more so reading the client's energy in that specific moment. It's not that you can't ask questions, it's that they are more suited for just reading your current energy, your current state of being in this current time. And finally, the one form of divination that I still have not quite mastered enough to read other people with, and probably don't think I could unless I figured it out. It's a matter of trial and error. But anyway, the final style of divination that I personally practice is tasseomancy, or the art of reading tea leaves. Depending on the shape that the leaves are in, and also depending on the placement the leaves are in from the cup to the saucer or plate, that will be what determines what your reading will be about, or what I will be reading you on. If anything, I would love to do this at a party or when I'm being intimate with someone, like on a date. But as for like me actually reading for like a clientele, not so much. At least not until I figure out the logistics of it all. Unlike the bones, where it's reading my specific energy in that moment, the tea leaves are reading everything from the world around me, from what's going on in my past, present, future, how it connects, just kind of overall everything about my world as it is and what it could be. Each style of divination is different, because they are, and that they can read into different things depending on what you're looking for. Okay, so let's talk about divination as a form of communication. Personally, I would say that the best way I interpret messages from my spirits and whatnot is more on just relying on my intuition. However, when I do pull my cards, for example, well, I'll put it this way. When it comes to Apollo, I have a certain deck. In fact, here it is, let me get it. I have a certain deck of cards that I use to communicate with him, and it's not that I'm using these cards as a method exactly to commune with him and get those messages. It is more or less a method for me to vibe with his energy, figure out what kind of energy that he wants me to focus on when I'm working at his altar and working with him in that moment. And of course, based on the cards and based on how I intuitively feel, I then interpret the meanings and go from there. Of course, this will look different with everybody, because you know, not everyone's the same. Some people need the cards, some people need that guidance of, oh, this card is from him and it means this. Me, not so much. So I guess the best way I can put it here is that when it comes to divining with my spirits, when it comes to communing with my spirits using divinational methods, it really is, at least for me, about how I intuitively feel alongside what card I pulled, or what the set of bones looks like at that moment, or even hell, what my tea leaves look like. And I understand that tarot, any form of divination rather, is very situational and very subjective. However, bottom of the line is, it works for me. If it works, I'm gonna continue doing it until it doesn't, and then I'll find something else. Clearly, I don't have much to say on that, because if I'm honest, I don't really combine my divinational practices with my spirits unless I absolutely feel like I have to. So that being said, let's just go ahead and move on to the other topic that I want to talk about, and that is misconceptions. And let's start this off by talking about God. I heard this a lot when I was coming into this style of practice, and that is, you have to be psychic. First of all, in my personal opinion, everyone is psychic to a degree. It just depends on how attuned or how firmly able you are to align yourself to be able to feel those energies or commune in whatever way. And secondly, let's go off the idea of not everyone is psychic. Sure, fine, we'll go off that idea. And still, no, you don't have to be psychic. I know plenty of people who read tarot cards who do not claim to be psychic in any degree. They just read tarot cards because, again, it is a way for them to better grasp an understanding of a situation, a person, or whatever they got going on. Lastly, and y'all, this is going to send me on a tangent for a little bit, so I apologize. Tarot is evil. No, it's not. Tarot is not evil. They are a deck of cards that are, again, subjective, that don't even have to mean the same thing all the time. They are a deck of mass-produced cards. How is it evil? It's like saying a Ouija board is evil. No, it's what it is. It's a toy, but it can be used to commune with the other side if done properly. That is your religious trauma that is talking. It is not. It is not. Let's talk about how I personally prep for getting into the right headspace or just getting prepared for a reading of any sort. I can pull out my cards at any given moment. I can pull out my bones at any given moment. Tea, not so much, but anyway. However, I will say, at least for me, that I definitely have to be in the right headspace. I have to be mentally prepared and mentally ready to read the cards or read the bones and be open to messages. And how I get there is simply kind of just, I have to mentally and this might sound weird, I have to mentally tell myself, okay, I'm gonna read the cards, I'm gonna throw the bones, I'm gonna do it, it's gonna happen, I'm gonna be, I have to psych myself up almost. And also, on the contrary, on the opposite end of that, not only do I have to hype myself up, but I also have to make sure that I am calm, cool, and collected and grounded enough to interpret the messages correctly, or as correctly as possible. It's weird, but as long as I kind of at least make myself aware that a reading is gonna happen, chances are I'm more than fully prepared to put myself in that mindset of calming myself down, getting ready to read the cards, and being in a in-the-moment kind of attitude. Okay, so let's get a little personal. Let's talk about readings that I've done in the past, my favorite readings that I've done in the past, and kind of just share some insight. I always, every so often, run into this one or two few people that are like, I've never done this before, I'm skeptical. I figured I'd do this now and kind of just see how it goes. And those are my favorite types of readings because I always tell them my style of reading is we're gonna have a conversation, you and I are gonna vibe, and I'm gonna pull your cards and we'll just go from there. Of course, I also tell them to not tell me anything. I don't want to know anything about them. I don't want to know anything about their situation. And yes, this is going to be more of a hot take, but in my opinion, you don't have to know anything about the person. In fact, in my opinion, it's better that you don't know anything about the person, because when you don't know anything about them, then your readings are less likely to become biased. Anyway, back on topic. And when I get those few people that come and I know nothing about them, it's a first time reading and they're skeptical and they just want to, see how it goes, 9 times out of 10, I have, rarely, and I mean rarely, run into an instant where the person was like, that is the worst reading, you were inaccurate about everything, I hate you, and just, have a whole tangent. 9 times out of 10, they love it. They go in not knowing what to expect and they come out loving it, being like, whoa, you were very oddly accurate. This gave me something to think about, and I would love to see you again, and I love those people. I do occasionally get the client, or get the querent, that is coming in and they're very closed off, very reserved, and they get a reading. I don't want to say nothing good comes out of the reading, but just nothing comes out of the reading. I almost get nothing. And it is from those clients that I've learned that I myself will have to kind of pry them open in some degree. Sometimes it works, sometimes they look at me weird, and yeah, but hey, I promise I'm not pushy, I'm not forceful, just, I'm trying to read your cards. You came here, you paid me to read your cards, so I'm trying. Give me something to work with. That's what I'm trying to get at. Let's talk about hot takes, right? Let's talk about my personal things that honestly may get me canceled, but hey. Personally, I don't believe reversals in tarot specifically are necessary. Now, does that mean I don't know what reversals mean? No, I've studied the reversals, I got a good grasp on them, but I don't like reading reversals. I like my cards to be upright because I like the way they look upright. And if a card so happens to come out reversed, then I'll read it, or if I feel like, this was meant to be read in a different way, then I'll read it again in said reversed way. However, 9 times out of 10, when you're getting a reading with me, the cards will be upright, and I will interpret them in their upright meanings based on the situation, based on whatever it is that you wanted a reading on, and go from there. And the other thing, again, about tarot, you don't need to be gifted your first deck. You don't need your first deck handed to you. If you want to go to the store and buy your very first deck, do it. It's what I did. It's how I got into divining, how I got into tarot, and look at where I am now. Okay, so I think I rambled on for a good bit. I think I've been recording this video for about 2 hours, if not 3, which is a record, in my opinion. So that being said, I'm gonna go. I hope the takeaway from this video is that divination is different and personal to everyone and anyone. My divinational practices and styles will look different than my friend Fire Lotus's. Theirs would look different than mine. Just that my usual message, everyone is different. The way they go about their practices is different, and find what works for you. Just have fun, explore, and try not to overthink it, because it's when you overthink it that you're gonna probably end up crashing out. Anyways, as I said, I'm gonna go. As always, if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment down below anything and everything to do with divination, how you divinate, what you love to read about, what you love to do. Like, share, and subscribe for more in the future. And as always, make wise choices, make delicious pizza, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!